You're watching Morning at NTV.
My Daily Monitor Friday edition, check. My phone, check. My trainers, check. My pair of jeans, check. I'm ready for Friday. Welcome to the show, my day edition. But what's the morning at NTV without starting with the question of the day?
Morning, Brian. You look very good for a Friday. Thank you for welcoming us to the show. A beautiful Friday, the 8th day of August. And as we continue the show, here is a look at the news. Ugandans should not expect any mercy from China when caught on the wrong side of the Chinese law, especially in drug trafficking. That tough warning was delivered by the Chinese ambassador to Uganda, Zhao Yali, while addressing a press conference that was together with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sam Kutesa. The ambassador said bilateral talks are going on between the Chinese government and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on how best to manage Ugandans in Chinese jails, but warned that such talks cannot interfere with the judicial process or help overturn court sentences. As Moses Akena reports, the envoy advised the U.S. against backtracking on their promise to invest in Africa as made by U.S. President Barack Obama at the U.S.-Africa Summit.
23 Ugandans are on death row in China after they were convicted of drug trafficking, while 22 others are serving life sentences. In total, 70 Ugandans are languishing in Chinese jails for drug-related offenses. Just last month, another Ugandan, George Lubega, was arrested in China with what the authorities say was high-grade cocaine. Their plight came into the limelight following the conviction and execution of 2 Ugandans, Omar Damalira and Ham Andrew Ngobi, about 2 months ago in China for drug trafficking.
One carried 16 kilos and the other one more than 20.
Since then, debate has raged on, with some people urging China to repatriate the convicted Ugandans to serve their sentences at home. But Chinese ambassador to Uganda, Zhao Yali, has dashed any hope that talks between his government and Kampala could reverse the situation.
When there is a decision from the Supreme Court, according to the regulations and the laws of a country, especially it's a sovereign country, we have everybody should show respect.
Addressing a joint press conference with Uganda's Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa, the envoy warned Ugandan youth against falling prey to international drug traffickers.
Some of them, especially the young people, I know they were used. They were used. But when you do something, when you commit a crime, you have to pay your price.
Why trafficking drugs? I think we should not only be looking at saving them, but we should be looking at stopping the practice as well.
The Chinese government tightened its drug control measures from the 1990s to crack the lucrative trade. Earlier today, China executed 2 South Koreans for drug trafficking despite pleas from Seoul for mercy. Article 347 of the Chinese criminal law says, whoever smuggles, traffics, transports or manufactures narcotic drugs shall be sentenced to fixed term imprisonment of 15 years, life imprisonment, and or death, as well as confiscation of property. This law covers those who smuggle opium of not less than 1 kilogram, heroin or methylaline of not less than 50 grams, or other narcotic drugs in large quantities. Others are ringleaders of drug trafficking gangs, armed protectors of drug smugglers, those who violently resist arrest, and those involved in organized international trafficking. Analysts say a prisoner swap between Uganda and China may not work since Uganda's anti-narcotic laws are much weaker. Meanwhile, Ambassador Yali refutes allegations of mistreatment of local workers in Chinese companies here.
I haven't received any as a Chinese ambassador to Uganda. We are in very good cooperation with the government to address all these problems.
On the concluding U.S.-Africa Summit, where President Obama hosted 50 African heads of state, and with U.S. companies pledging $14 billion for investments in Africa, the Chinese envoy says such a move will not derail his country's policy on the continent.
We have the capability to deliver on time all these big projects and with the best quality.
The Chinese government donated assorted equipment to Minister Sam Kutesa to ease his work for a year as president of the UN General Assembly.
A government has dismissed claims by former Vice President Professor Gilbert Bukenya that he is yet to get his retirement benefits as per the law covering former presidents, vice presidents and prime ministers enacted in 2010. State Minister for Public Service Sezi Mbaguta tabled documents before the Parliamentary Committee on Public Service indicating that Professor Bukenya has received partial payment amounting to 176 million shillings. Francis Jingo has that report from Parliament.
A team from the Ministry of Health had appeared before the committee to present the ministerial policy statement for 2014-2015. One of the key issues that surfaced was the issue of doctors and nurses fleeing the country, while others do not want to work with government because their pay is bad. According to the Director General of Health Services, Dr. Jane Ruth Achen, it has been an uphill task to even pay doctors who earn a monthly salary of 2.5 million shillings. During the session, the matter about Mulago Hospital's financial losses was resurrected. The committee queried why 4.7 billion shillings cannot be accounted for.
Government land, everything about the Mulago is not getting any money as any clear, but the money is going to the account of one person.
Because we don't want to see Madame Kantarama's drama. I can assure you, she really became a comedian in this committee.
Now, we are not going to continue appropriating money when others are misusing facilities of government.
The committee then requested to see one Alison Katarama, who is said to have had a hand in the loss of funds for Mulago Hospital, where she runs a kindergarten in the premises. They also revealed that Katarama was responsible for the hospital's illegal water connections, which started as far as 2004. But when the officials said Katarama was not present, the committee ordered them out and warned that they would not deal with their budget until the issue is sorted.
I'm not leading an autonomous institution, and whenever I get a challenge, I have to appear and put it clearly to the Minister of Health.
To ask about the school, she doesn't appear. When we call in the committee meeting, we ask the minister to invite the entire managers of Mulago Hospital. She does not come.
The Minister of State for Primary Health Care, Sarah Opendi's pleas in defense of the team did not help.
Fortunate that the committee had to send away somebody who is really not the person responsible for disciplining or taking action against Kantarama.
The committee is structuring the 2014-2015 ministerial policy statement for the health budget. Maurice Chol, NTV at Parliament.
We do apologize for the wrong story that played. That story is actually about the Mulago Hospital officials who were ordered out of the Parliamentary Committee of Health meeting because they could not properly produce evidence on accountability of 4.7 billion shillings said to have been spent on water bills and rent of property for the hospital. We also had Sarah Opendi there talk. She is the Minister for Primary Health Care. We now return to the previous story we talked about of Professor Gilbert Bukenya and his emoluments.
A week ago, when the matter of non-payment of emoluments of former leaders emerged before the Parliamentary Committee on Public Service, Professor Gilbert Balibaseka Bukenya claimed he was a victim.
They don't have a voucher because nobody has ever paid me anything.
But government has tabled documents indicating that Professor Bukenya received retirement benefits worth 176 million shillings.
The ministry has paid the retirement benefits of Professor Gilbert Bukenya for 38 months.
They pay the salaries of my workers, from the administrative secretary to my political assistant, household chef, and my gardener. And that money is about 4.6 million shillings. That's what they pay me.
Is that this committee summons Professor Gilbert Bukenya so that he himself can clear the air.
And if a minister tells a lie, therefore it means the system tells lies.
Professor Bukenya and his predecessor, Dr. Specioza Wandira Kaziwe, are entitled to 500 million shillings each.
Over 500 million was paid to her account.
Professor Bukenya, Dr. Kaziwe and the former Prime Minister Apollon Sibambi are also entitled to a new house and a car. The State Minister for Public Service, Sezi Mbaguta, informed the committee that their attempts to obtain 1.2 billion shillings from the Ministry of Finance to clear these areas has fallen to deaf ears. But it emerged that Public Service has secured 7.4 billion shillings to pay ex gratia benefits to former presidents and vice presidents.
And the ministry has started processing the payment.
The minister tabled a list of departed former leaders who are entitled to 1 billion shillings each. The MPs were informed that the families of Uganda's first president, the late Sir Edward Mutesa, and the former president, the late Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, have received 400 million shillings each.
Last financial year, and we are now processing the remaining 599 million.
But the relatives of the deceased former President Idi Amin Dada and Godfrey Rukongwa Binaisa are yet to receive their benefits.
Late Nadiope, 400 million. Mustafa Adrisi, nothing was given. Engineer Abraham Waligo, nothing was given. Late Narendra Patel, nothing was given.
And yet Johnny Wabiha, Gadi Sontoko, Dr. Samson Kiseka, and Paul Mwanga have received partial payments. Jingo Francis, NTV, Parliament.
A former chaplain, Canon Johnson Ebong, has sued Makerere University for terminating his employment without following procedure. Ebong is seeking 100 million shillings in damages.
Johnson Ebong filed a petition against the university in the Civil Division of the High Court. He was working as a Church of Uganda chaplain.
He was removed unlawfully because, first of all, he had not been given any termination notice. And then, secondly, the law says that if you have been handling me in a certain way, you should not depart from it.
The defense lawyer argues that Ebong's employment was terminated on grounds of age. However, his attorney says the age limit rule for retirement applies to those on permanent employment.
And according to the Human Resource Manual of Makerere University, when your appointment expires every 2 years, you must apply for its renewal. There is no provision that you are bound to any particular age limit.
There were also accusations that the acting chaplain of the university, Reverend Geoffrey Byarugaba, is in office illegally because he was not vetted, a prerequisite in the law. The case has been adjourned to a later date to be communicated to both parties. Aaron Mukama, NTV.
You're still watching Morning at NTV, and it's a Friday. We now cross over to Brian and Joel for today's press review. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Brian.
Well, good morning, Mabel. And this morning, we woke up to a headline story in the Red Pepper. Ministers missing on cabinet list named. And maybe our guest this morning on the big story will tell us whether he's a potential cabinet minister in our new cabinet. And of course, we're looking forward to the big story. But of course, Friday, the Red Pepper is out, the Daily Monitor is out, and the Observer are all out. We'll be taking a look at these papers in a couple of minutes on the press review. Joining us, it's the 8th day of August 2014. The year is fast ending, only 4 months to December. Joel, I can't believe this. Feels like we started this show 2 months ago.
I know, it runs real fast. We need to take stock of our personal goals and so on and see whether we are making headways.
How far are you?
Individually, that's a tough question.
There's a list of like 10 goals, and by this time you want to have reached at around 6 or 7.
Yes, I'm making some progress, perhaps not as well as I should, but there's still room to, you know, and probably for everybody out there, I'm sure right about now you're thinking, hey, the eye is ending, I've not done A, B, C, D. We still have a couple of months to make good of that, so don't give up too soon.
A friend of mine says that the only way to manage these expectations is to set no goal at all.
That's absolute poppycock. You see,
so when something happens, you're like, yay, I didn't think I could do it.
Brian, if you aim at nothing, you hit it each time you try.
Right.
Each time you can throw something at nothing, you'll hit it, you know. So it's good that you set goals and set them high enough. You know, somebody says it's better you set your goals too high and fail to achieve them than set them too low and achieve them. You know, so set them high and see how far you can go.
All right. And speaking of setting aims higher, maybe those who are hoping to be ministers
can end up as what?
Can
Permanent
end up
secretaries.
as RDCs or something, and ministers missing on cabinet list
That's
name.
in the red paper.
And
I saw a couple of people there who apparently are going to be thrown out. I saw Viandala.
Yeah.
I saw, you know, Wana Jemba. I saw a couple of faces. Some I'm not really surprised because I'm thinking, have these people actually delivered? You know, I don't know what their KPIs are, their key performance indicators, but I'm thinking some of these, it does not come too much as a surprise. You know, some of the faces that I see here really.
Yeah. Were they put in places where they can't best handle? Because, you know, Nankabira spent a lot of time in defense, and then she's taken fisheries. She has arrested a couple of illegal fishmongers, and one of them now, Rakataka, who is all over the place. Maybe they, for example, if you put a qualified doctor to head the Ministry of Health, you're hoping that they will deliver, you know. If you put someone who has trained in IT to head the ICT department, the ministry, you kind of feel that they have more competence there than if you just bring a guy who is probably graduated in social sciences and they're heading the medical, you know.
Yes and no, Brian. Yes, because, you know, a qualified doctor, for example, would know the nitty-gritty, the intrinsic details of what the health ministry requires, what the priorities should be, etc., etc. No, because I think you need a good manager. You need a good manager to run any kind of institution. You don't necessarily need to be a very good doctor to be the manager of a health center. I think you need to be a good manager for starters, and then you can learn a couple of these things. It would be another advantage, but you see, if you're a good manager, you can run any kind of institution. Get there, learn what the nitty-gritties are, etc., etc. If you're both good enough. But you see, the challenge for many of these ministers, they are neither professionals, neither are they good managers. They're just politicians who are being cut some slack. You have, you know, be good to me. I don't know, we fought in the bush together or that kind of thing, you know. And so patronage at the end of the day does work. But you see them failing because they're not professionals in those particular ministries, but they're not good managers either, you know. So it keeps eating them up slowly but surely. Who suffers at the end of the day?
Well, I'll go on record. One of the people I want to see out is the Minister of Sports. So, yeah, take him out anytime.
That one.
Bakabulindi, take him out anytime. I'll be good to go.
And Jessica Lupo, the primary minister?
Well, let the whole ministry
They
really.
should all buzz.
Yeah.
And they put who? Tuka? You want Tuka to become a minister? Are you kidding me? Do you want things to get worse?
No, maybe our overzealous former chairman can have an opportunity to head.
Which one?
Fajil Mande.
Fajil Mande.
Is still too overqualified for the ministry?
Is he? Says who?
No, you once insinuated that he was overqualified for the job.
No, that's not what I meant, really. What I meant was that he probably didn't understand what his job description was going to be. Because you see, as chairman of a board, you don't run the day-to-day operations of the institution,
and
you know.
He wanted to do
And he wanted to do that. Maybe because, yeah, he's aggressive, he's a shrewd guy, overzealous, some people say.
Yeah.
Others think, you know, he's a guy that likes to see things move the right way and that kind of thing. So he was overstepping his bounds, you know. As minister, I don't know, I'm not sure, but maybe a try. In the Daily Monitor this morning, Ebola alert suspected patient held at Entebbe. There's a gentleman, a person that was coming in from Sudan, a visiting clinical officer suspected of suffering from this deadly hemorrhagic fever. Is still undergoing, you know, observation to try and ascertain what exactly it is so that we can be sure he's actually not suffering from Ebola.
I want to take a moment and actually thank Ministry of Health for the awesome job that they do every time we have an outbreak in Uganda. And I know you may not be appreciated for a very long time, but when I look at the cases in West Africa, more than 900 people dying, youth thrown on the streets because they have Ebola, and the ability of our ministry here to contain those outbreaks is phenomenal. phenomenon.
I agree with you to quite an extent. Many times, yeah, you see them running around. Especially, of course, my challenge is we wait for things to happen, and then we are all scampering all over the place, and and it usually there are fears, there are concerns. People say there's this thing we don't understand it. Nodding disease, they swung into action way after many people were affected, many have died. Many have been debilitated by the disease and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they normally come in and they try to contain the situation after it has gotten out of hand. But why wait for that? But yeah, they do try, like you say. It doesn't get out of hand like it's the case of Liberia and West Africa. You see bodies on the streets and you're thinking, really? I don't know whether it hit them unexpectedly, but. Not good news out there.
For me this Friday, I'm in a thanking mood, literally. So I want to thank Minister of Health. Thank you for just making us safe, I guess.
You should thank a lot more people. Today, I understand is Kasiate's anniversary. Hopefully, you'll be sending them thank you flowers.
And by the way, that's why Kasiate is not here today, because
maybe not.
He's celebrating. How many years? 8?
I wonder. He should tell us.
Yes, and he's away in Ginger, of course, on official duties, but we definitely, our hearts are with you, Simon.
How many years have you been married?
2, and I'm going to be in trouble.
Of course. I understand. No, our signal was still off in Kampala, so your wife is probably not watching.
My wife is not watching. Well, about 2.5 years.
About 2.5, and you're happy?
Of course.
Yeah, I know that when somebody has been married for about 2 years and they're happy, you know why. When they've been married for 20 years plus and they're happy, you wonder why. So we probably know why you're happy. 2 years. I'll ask you a couple of years down the road. Hopefully you will still be happy.
On that note, I want to apologize to our viewers in Kampala who are probably not watching us right now. Our technical team is working around the corner to make sure that the signal is back at Kololo. But if you're on DSTV or GoTV, you can catch us live. Of course, the other districts are fine, but Kampala, we are trying to do everything possible to get back us on track. Speaking of thanking people, I want to thank Cyril this morning for an awesome job done in Glasgow. He brought gold. Uganda came back with 5 medals. We did quite well. The front page of the Daily Monitor has that picture. But of course, Kipsiro goes back into another race. Actually left the country yesterday. Arrived in the morning, left in the evening.
You see, when I see this young man, I'm thinking, good for him. He's had a rough time. He's had a very rough, period where things have not been happening for him. But this just goes to show that, you can bounce back. And there's many a person out there that feel, we're talking about marriage. Their marriages are on the rocks. Their businesses are on the rocks. I don't know whatever else is falling apart. But it is possible that you can bounce back. For some reason, we had written off this guy.
Yes.
Because we thought, you know what, you are long gone. You probably need to put your act together. And he sure has put his act together. And he's back.
He's made us proud.
He's back in the game. Good for him. Good for him.
I told you I'm in a spirit of thanking. So this morning, I also want to thank Irene Ikomo, the woman who changed the U.S.-Africa relations. And for a long time, I always ask my question, that will aid save us? You have given us figures constantly on this show. How much money has been brought into Africa? How much money has been given to Uganda? China at one point forgave us the huge amount of debts that we had, amassed over time. So did that solve us? Did that our problems of poverty? Did that help the health sector? That help education? And this woman nailed it on point.
Yeah, she did, and Obama does concede. The time he was doing his Africa tour, so they did a link here, and this young lady told him, look, we need more trade than aid, and this is something we have had again and again, and it is good that Obama seems to concede. I hope he'll actually, take action on this, besides just saying it out and so on. Look, we have had loads of money pumped into Africa. Since the mid-1900s, over $1 trillion has been pumped into Africa, as aid. Has it bettered this place? I'm not too sure. Yes, every once in a while you see a health center coming up or this kind of project, rolling off. But look, ultimately we are not going to get better, just, courtesy of these handouts. I think we need to grow up.
So I had a conversation with someone and told, we're talking about the ability of the capacity of our products to go to the U.S. markets and compete. And of course, the argument was, the Bazungu loved our African things. Do you know how many people order for Biteng? I'm like, yeah, when I'm in Brazil, I will go and order for something Brazil and I bring it back home. But at the end of the day, our products are not yet good for the US market.
That's a challenge. We need to style up as well, because you see, yeah, for somebody to buy from you, you need to give them reason good enough, you know. And in the big story, Maurice and I will be discussing. One of my biggest other concerns is that as Africa, we are very disjointed, we are very disunited, you know. We give these guys loads of money, courtesy of the things we import in this country, assuming, besides, you know, if we were to even cut off the West for a while, and we do very good trade within ourselves, you know, but what are we always doing? We're always bickering, we're always fighting against each other. If we were to trade amongst ourselves, you know, it would go a long way, but we are not doing that. So probably we need to be very united. If we were united, we would give the US and the rest of the Western world a run for their money. We would say, look, you want to trade with us? These are our terms and conditions. But right now, we cannot, because we operate in solitude, as Uganda, as Kenya, as I don't know which other countries. And when you are alone, it's easy for you to be muzzled, it's easy for you to be roughshod over. But if we are one joint block, it's easy for us to put up a good show.
To negotiate. Well, if you have some kids, you can also, this weekend, Rainbow Benton Carnival, of course, organized by Daily Monitor and sister companies, KFM. You can take your children there, Chiwatule Recreation Center, and it's an opportunity for a family day out, especially for you corporate people who are busy all the time.
You took it yourself?
Yes, of course, me included.
And your wife. MPs accuse OPM of diverting flood victims' cash. I'll tell you, the OPM is a beleaguered office. Every once in a while you hear of this,
like
you hear
NSSF.
of the other. Like NSSF, you could say, and so they are saying, look, you have got to account for the 8 billion shillings that was given. Way to see that accountability. In some not so good news, again, Kyambogo needs Vice Chancellor urgently to resolve mess. This is according to lawmakers. As Makerere is struggling with the Vice Chancellor and lots of other issues, Kyambogo is saying we need a Vice Chancellor as soon as yesterday.
I watched the Chinese ambassador yesterday saying if you commit a crime, you have to pay. And you know, I feel sorry for the families that lost their people in China. But I always said, the drug traffickers know the repercussions.
I'll tell you, there are ramifications. At least there should be ramifications for our actions, you know. And you see, one thing about China, you can hate them for being very totalitarian. You go with the drugs, I don't know, about a kilogram and above, life sentence or hanging and that kind of thing. And I'm thinking, these guys are ruthless. Well, that is the way they've chosen to play their game, you know, and so we need to know, how do these guys do their thing? But see, ultimately, they don't just huff and puff like the way we do here in this country. We have very good laws on paper, we don't implement them. For them, they say, you commit this crime, these are the consequences, and they follow through on that. You would be a fool, you know, to go the same way. Of course, we do commiserate with the families of those that have been killed, those that are on death row, and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, you need to learn that these guys, they don't play games, you know. We should do the same here in this country. We need to be sure of our laws. How do they operate? Can we make good of them?
Well, you can find out actually the actual statement of the Chinese ambassador if you grab yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor. I've been looking at the Observer. What is in the Observer this morning, Joel?
The Observer is telling us quite a bit as well. Government now disowns all kings. All 14 kings have been removed from the official government gazette. A letter was written to UPP, you know, and the government printing publication. And then they're saying, look, let's first disgazette these guys. I think, you know, there's a lot of confusion happening, you know, with the traditional cultural leaders and so on. I think government is saying, okay, we have given these guys, we cut them too much slack. Maybe we need to cut their wings a little bit. I don't know. That is something I wait to see how it pans out.
Was it not a wise move for the president to reinstate monarchies back in '93, especially? Well, Buganda was the first, had that privilege when the current king was, you know, coronated. Was it a wise move? Did we ever see this happening eventually?
I don't know if we did. I'm sure His Excellency the President sometimes thinks and is like, maybe I should not have done this. Of course, sometimes, as it is now, it's a little bit too late to rescind, too difficult to. But again, one would think that we've probably given too much powers to our cultural institutions, or maybe they need to be curtailed, because sometimes the imagination is they're getting too political and that kind of thing. But again, on the other hand, you see now political actors infiltrating them. And that is why you see every clan now is becoming, you know, a kingdom and that kind of thing. They divide and rule, modus operandi. It's eating us up. So you'd want to see a clear distinction between the two. You don't want to see these things, you know, you don't want to see a nexus between the two. We need cultural institutions. We need to promote culture in this country. But how do we get to do it? Now, women are losing out to men on government jobs. This is according to a report. It is reported here in the Observer. We seem to have more women out there making things happen. Good for them, good for them. Women emancipation seems to be working after all, and sometimes we tend to think maybe it is a tired policy, this whole, you know, affirmative action. Women MPs and so on, the 1.5 points that are given to girls as they go to university. I'm of the view that it is a tired one. It has become, you know, it should become obsolete. Why? Because women now are standing up to be counted.
Yes.
And we need to be careful. Otherwise, we'll get to a time where we'll now need to ameliorate the boy child and get them up and say, okay, now we need emancipation for the boy child. I hope we don't get there, but there it is. Now, something that's bothered me again concerning women, police ends free testing services for rape victims. You see, it is mandatory that if you accuse somebody of rape, you're supposed to be tested by a police surgeon. It's been done free of charge in the past, but now it's going to be costing people about 35,000 to 45,000. Now, that makes it a lot harder for rape victims to get justice there, because if you're going to pay this amount of money, for many of them, coming by this money is a tall order, you know. Yeah. So what does this mean for the justice system in our country?
And of course, you know, I've interacted with Navakova before, and asked her what's, you know, sometimes it's hard. You're raped by, say, your father or uncle at 4 a.m. or 5. And because you're scared, you probably go take a shower. It's the mental thing. You take a shower because you're washing the dirt off yourself. And police expect you to go and get tested.
Which is very traumatizing. You know,
because they need evidence to see the sperm. Otherwise, there's no evidence. So in there, where do we ascertain that you've been raped in case you wash the evidence off?
And it's very traumatizing, because I put myself in the shoes of such a woman. You want to clean off that because it's bothering you. It's very traumatic an experience, yeah? And now here you are being told you've got to pay this money. I don't know.
I had cut them some slack. They had introduced the Form 3A, where actually you don't have to go to a police surgeon. You go, pick that form from any station, and then go to any clinic.
Yeah, of course, that's for those who can afford. The police surgeons were available for those who can't afford, who are the majority, deep in the villages and so on. But now police is saying you've got to pay for these services too. It becomes tricky. Now, Professor Maurice Ogenga Latigo writes in the Observer here and says, idle MPs seeking to return gay law are out of order. I would want to imagine, Professor Ogenga Latigo, you seem to be an idle one, especially since you were out of parliament. He's been, you know, very idle and disorderly at times, I think, you know. And of course, now he's saying, I want to come back to parliament. His constituents are saying, look, you are a traitor. We're not going to vote you again, and that kind of thing.
Probably a very wrong move for him to support the law if he wants to come back to parliament.
Professor Ogenga Latigo, I hope you lose that seat. I think he is going to lose it. I think so. He's an old man. Let him stick to his farming and that kind of thing. We need some oomph in parliament, some new brains.
We need some seniors in there. Well, this morning you can grab yourself a copy of the Observer and get to know what's happening. And I know our friend Kasiate writes in the Observer. What does he have this morning as far as metrosexual is concerned?
Pay attention to your working gear. I see a picture here of General Kalechi Kaihura in his, you know, police attire and so on. Looking smart. Whether or not he acts smart could be another issue altogether, you know.
That's
I had
below
to say
the
that
belt.
too. I had to. Sometimes I think he does not act smart, you know, the way he operates. You know, sometimes we tend to think he's becoming too political a police chief as opposed to being the neutral kind of police chief.
Joel, let's cut the man some slack.
Which one?
He runs what his boss tells him. He was appointed by the president of this country.
Yeah.
And just like you are at your job, you don't act smart when your boss tells you come here at 5 a.m. You don't act smart, Joel.
When my boss tells me to come here at 5 a.m., it's because that is actually what is in the agreement. What's the constitutional expectation of General Kalechi?
No, do you know the contract between Kalechi and...
Well, I know what the constitution says are the expectations of the police chief. That is what we need to see out there, as opposed to the backhand surreptitious, you know, operations and that kind of thing.
No. You know what?
I will stick to his job description.
I am not going to criticize anyone this morning, so I will stick to that.
So why are you criticizing me, Brian Mulondo?
No. I'm telling you, don't
You're
act
supposed to be
smart
cutting me some slack
when your boss
here.
tells you, Joel, to be here at 5. When your boss tells you, please run this interview with these youth leaders. When your boss tells you, arrest Mbabazi. No, you don't act smart. You arrest Mbabazi, period.
If you say so.
The Scoop magazine this morning, the Daily Monitor. Of course, there's a focus on Bebe Cool, who says the best is yet to come. And
who's that? Bebe Wine or Bobby Cool?
Bebe Cool.
Whatever.
And he has a concert tonight where he's using automated cards and really cool stuff with his wife, who of course works here and does life stories, which shows every Sunday. Actually, well,
yeah, I've seen the preparations at the hotel. I don't know; those, of course, are concerts that the likes of Joel Senyonyi have no time for. But go and hopefully you have fun. Those of you that want to. Uhuru criticizes West over war on terrorism. This is here in the Daily Monitor. This gentleman is concerned that look, you're issuing travel advisories and so on, and that is not helpful. It is not fair. But again, you want to see the West as well. You want to hear them out. If people are being thrown grenades at and that kind of thing, you want to be too careful who goes and who does not go to that country, because ultimately it's you up.
Well, you can get, of course, and read more stories in the Daily Monitor, the Red Pepper, and the Observer this
Before
Friday.
we cross over to Mabel,
yeah,
I see something here in the Observer, a worried man behind every famous woman. Tell me, would you be worried if your wife becomes, you know, famous, very influential in this country? Many a man would get a little bit jittery. They feel, I'm getting a bit emasculated and that kind of thing.
Actually, I would be worried if she stayed at home.
Leave alone, there's
if she was just ordinary, I don't want to marry an ordinary woman. I married a woman who I want to be great with. So if I am great, I need her to be great.
Greater than you?
I'm not born to be ordinary. So if you are worried because
you're clearly running away from my question of, yes, you can be great, but then she becomes a lot greater than you. Would you take that?
Awesome, because I am not called to be ordinary, Joel.
Look at this. What, you're dodging my question.
No, obviously, if I'm called not to be ordinary, I don't expect the people I'm hanging out with to be ordinary too. So my wife, especially my wife, has to be great. If she supersedes my expectations, awesome. But she needs to manage that greatness.
You had to add that.
Yeah. If she needs to manage it. Well, Mabel, I know you're one of the great ladies in this country, especially when it comes to media. Now, some of the shocking headlines on the international scene is U.S. President Obama ordering airstrikes in Iraq this morning, and most of the people, especially for a new religion, I think Yazidi, are very worried that more than thousands of people are trapped inside the mountains of Iraq. But also tell us an update as far as the Ebola outbreak is concerned.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for those very kind words. Well, we'll start off with the Reuters page here. And Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta in America was saying, yes, Kenya, which is the largest economy in East Africa, has a few pockets of trouble here and there, but on the whole, the country is free. He was trying to woo investors, saying this is a resource-rich hub of innovation. A picture of him here at the U.S. summit. Now, the Malaysian airline is to undergo complete overhaul in a privatization offer. The state fund that manages it, which has about 60% shares, wants to buy out the rest at about $400 million and take it totally private. They have suffered two disastrous catastrophes, I should say, in recent months, and yeah, that's why they're going down this road. Obama approves strikes to stop Iraq genocide. He says the U.S. cannot turn a blind eye to a potential massacre, and if necessary, airstrikes will target militants. The president has also approved the delivery of food and water, and these are being dropped into a safe zone, according to the U.S. Defense Department. And yes, as Brian did say, there are a couple of people who are holed up on a mountain in Iraq. Ebola this morning, the World Health Organization will reveal whether the Ebola outbreak is a global health emergency. The priest who we saw yesterday being transported back to Spain is doing well, and we hope yeah, he will recover. My only question is, why aren't these trial drugs being given to the West Africans? I can't wait to meet her in person, says Justin Bieber on Malala Yousafzai. Malala is the 16-year-old who was shot by the Taliban in the head but survived. So she was chatting with Justin Bieber and he had this to tweet: just got FaceTime with Malala Yousafzai. She has such an incredible story. I can't wait to meet her. Earlier, Malala did say she is a fan of Justin Bieber, and it got me thinking, these are two different people. Who would ever have thought they would come together? And he's actually interested in her organization. He has lots of money, so who knows what he can do there. Now, today is a Friday. Some of you may be wondering, when will I stop working? If you're 35 years, for example, and you're hoping to retire at 67 years of age, here on the CNN page, CNN Money, there are 5 big retirement mistakes. How much are you saving? What is the rate of interest on those savings? And some other things you need to know before you just save on autopilot. A good article, I should say. Moving on to the BBC page, the black box from the Air Algeria plane that crashed over Mali last month actually cannot be used yet. There is sound, there is audio on it, but it is unintelligible. Apparently it got destroyed, and the engineers are working to see if they can get any data from the black box. Saudi men have been banned from marrying some expat women. These are expatriate women. Apparently in Saudi Arabia, about 30% of the people in Saudi Arabia are foreigners. So this is on the BBC page, and they're saying the Saudi Arabians cannot marry women from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Chad, or Burma. Interesting, if you ask me. Now, obviously, we can't end without talking about Oscar Pistorius. Yesterday, the state made its final arguments, and the defense is set to present their final arguments today. The defense team are obviously going to say it was an accident, but the state was saying, how can it be an accident? You shoot someone 4 times, and they insist he cannot escape a murder conviction. We shall see how that will play out later on today. That's all we had for you. We shall be taking a short break, but Morning at NTV will continue.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Hello, doctor.
Hello.
Are you feeling okay today?
I should be the one asking you that.
Me, I'm very fine. I'm just calling to check on you. You're sure you're okay? No headache, no fever?
But you, man.
Okay, doctor. Just checking.
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone. Call anyone. And change your life. Make a call and you could win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day.
Airtel. Together we can.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
I just wanted to say thank you for telling me about the PA job at NFH. It's just that Q and I will be in each other's lives again.
I'll drop the act, Zuleika. I know exactly what you've been up to. You made your intentions very clear on Friday night.
How dare you come back here again?
Just pay me, damn it. I can't. Suck it up.
What's going on? I have to go to hospital.
If you think I'm going to let you be the power behind the throne, well then, you're not on the throne yet.
And here I was thinking there are no gentlemen left in this world.
Which way are you headed?
Well, that depends on you, birthday boy. Your place or mine?
Oh, this bitch.
No.
Madika has expressed interest in the EIC job.
You're a shameless, arrogant excuse for a human being.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Welcome back. We shall now cross over to Joel for today's big story. Good morning, Joel. Good morning, Joel.
Maybe the curtains did come down on the Africa-US summit. Was this something that Africa hopes to benefit from, or was it an issue of, African leaders going for election from Big Brother? I want to talk about this when we get back for the big story. My name is Joel Senyonyi. Joining me this morning, Morrison Rakakamba, Special Presidential Assistant. Good to have you here this morning.
Thank you very much, Joel, and good morning, viewers.
Morris, we have had the curtains coming down on the Africa-US summit. Has the US come to the realization that Africa is actually a force to reckon with, or is this just, another of those trying to show you that we are on your side, but not quite?
No, I think it's really the push of globalization. The realization that there is no continent that can survive alone, that interdependence in the way business works and transformation happens is really key. And if you look at the data sets in terms of the Africa-US trade relations, you see that since they plunged into the economic recession in 2008, actually the trade between the US and Africa, let's say beginning 2011, it was around 125 billion United States dollars. But going into 2012, it moved deeper into 99 billion US dollars, and it's on a downward trend. 2013, the data sets show us that it was only 83 billion United States dollars. And the projections for 2014 are that it is going to even go much lower than 80 billion. So that's really a worrying trend, especially for economies in Africa that are growing at a rate of, almost 5% of growth on the African continent, with a huge population that is almost 1 billion across the entire Africa. So that's a huge market, and if you're not leveraging that market, then it means that it will have implications for the economy. So yes, US, for strategic reasons, will have to seriously engage Africa, because Africa is on the rise, and the US definitely needs strategic partnerships. Tangentially, if you look at China,
actually, I wanted to ask that. If you juxtapose China, 200 billion US dollars annually, that's trade with Africa, the US 85 billion shillings.
Because
is the US really a friend to Africa? Like
you see, tangentially, China, since 2009, it overtook the United States in terms of the trade volumes and trade relations. 166 billion, and it is moving. I think now it's around
200 billion US dollars.
Yeah.
As of the last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see that China is moving in, quite much more seriously. So yes, the US must speak interest, but there are certain explanations why the US trade with Africa has been declining. First of all, I mentioned it is because of the economic crisis, but also too, because of that economic crisis, then you had less remittances, across. But also, I think the other aspect is that there was uncertainty about renewing AGOA, because that signature innovation between Africa that George Bush penned, especially, I think with the nudging of leaders like President Museveni in 2000, the Africa Growth Opportunity Act. So there was uncertainty. So US companies and other African, manufacturers and producers who were benefiting from that started slowing down, because there was uncertainty about the renewal of the AGOA Act. But now, from the promises made by the US administration, President Obama and others, now we know that conversations on refining AGOA, on making it much more broader, on making it more inclusive, on reducing the regulations and barriers that would inhibit most African manufacturers to engage with the US market are being reviewed by the US Department of Commerce.
Maurice, you talk about Africa becoming a force to reckon with. I'm thinking, does Africa's leaders actually realize that? Many times I tend to think many of our leaders here in Africa are very myopic. They don't know the potential with the kind of potential we do have. When they're signing deals with these, with the West, you're thinking these guys are signing away our countries.
No.
What is wrong with us?
No, but the conversation, by the way, shifted from just aid in terms of relationship to trade. And this conversation began here with the President Museveni saying, by exporting, raw materials, by, depending on aid, we are actually exporting jobs and not making sure that we build the skills capabilities we need in our countries. So the relationship between Africa and China and the relationship between Africa and the United States and Europe should really be based on trade relations. But the other aspect why I like, the entry of the United States seriously into the African market is that it is also going to redefine our relationship with China. Because very much our relationship with China, has been, signing on deals, no matter how those deals like in terms of quality, because China brings this investment here, builds roads, but, Chinese come here with concrete mixers and Chinese workers to engage with those roads. But because we need this investment, African governments have been saying, yes, they bring these roads, they bring investments in energy. Even if they bring their people, it's okay because we badly need this investment. But if they face the competition from another huge economy like the United States, remember it's still #1 economy on earth, then China is going to rethink and Africa is going to be much more bolder in negotiating with China to say, if you are building for us a railway, if you're building for us a road, then it's important that you employ Africans. It's very important that there is skills transfer, and it's very important that maintenance of those roads, of those railways, of those buildings is going to be done by Africans. So for me, I think it is going to re-engage the conversations with Africa, and Africa is going to be much more bolder with China. And this non-alignment, I like it very much, just like during the Cold War, when Africa was non-aligned, the communists or capitalists, but in the middle, trying to negotiate the benefits from both sides. And I think that opportunity has arrived again.
Maurice, I don't believe you. I don't believe you when you say that, in our case, for example, we are beginning to realize that aid is actually not doing us as much good. To this day, our leaders still extend the ball to the West, begging every so often. The other day when the Anti-Homosexuality Act was passed into law, and the West was saying, look, we are going to cut aid, we all got scampering and were making noise saying this is not fair and that kind of thing. Then recently, when it was annulled in courts of law, you had the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Sam Kutesa, saying, all right, now there's countries that are, are saying, all right, now we'll extend aid to you now that we have annulled this law, and everybody was smiling. And I'm thinking, have we actually gotten to that realization that aid is the disease of which it seems to cure? Look, since the 1900s, over $1 trillion has been pumped into Africa as foreign aid. Has it bettered us? Do we actually realize that aid is not going to help us get better?
But we don't seem to. I agree with President Museveni that by continuing to export raw materials, we have actually also been giving aid to most of these nation states, like Europe and America. But let me also tell you,
always begging for aid.
No, not at all. Let me tell you that we are financing our budget now at almost 80%.
80%. After 50 plus years, we are still at just at 80%.
Because remember that there are historical reasons, and I can tell you this is a country that emerged from war, emerged from all these contradictions and started from zero. You see, this consolidation happened, and the way economies grow, for us to be able to be much more sustainable, which is going to happen, I think, in a few years to come, 2 or 3 years, Uganda is going to be financing its expenditure at 100%. And then for me, that's no mean feat. And I can tell you that this government is really unshaken, but it engages with the development partners because it is a member of the global community of nations. And I can tell you that we are moving forward.
You see, at the Africa-US summit, I could hear Obama say, look, we want to do a lot more trade with Africa and that kind of thing. I'll tell you why our trade with them is going to fail. Because you see, I believe we can do a lot better trade if we are one joint bloc. But you see, the schisms within Africa, we are all disunited. We are fighting wars, bickering all over the place. How are we going to be united to ensure that we put up a good, bargain, for example, for our produce? Because we all seem to be trading individually as Uganda. And of course, if you're trading just as Uganda, you'll be bulldozed, you'll be rough-traded over. If you're trading just as Kenya, just as Nigeria, it's not going to happen for you. But you see, if we operate as one big block, then it would be a lot easier for us to negotiate and say, these are the terms.
I can tell you that the engagement is happening at a more regional level. And this is why I'm very happy with the East African community. Because if you can see these transnational infrastructure, huge projects. And I can tell you now, United States is very interested in engaging the East African community on constructing and having in place energy pool, a lot of megawatts that are going to power most African nations, including the DRC. So the regionalism, the community of African nations is happening. There are challenges like any other regional blocs. In the European Union, you know, there are problems. They had problems with Greece, with Eastern Europe. There are all those contradictions, but I can tell you that the African governments, and especially Uganda, like within EAC, has been a driving force, because we know Uganda alone cannot make it. There are certain things that Kenya can do that we cannot do, but still also harnessing those resources, partnerships, and bringing a resource pool to help us build interconnectedness across the region is going to be very important. And the East African community is a very, very big issue which was discussed during the US Africa Summit. People like Bloomberg, people like Bill Clinton, when they were chairing the African US Business Summit, were talking about the East African community and why it is a promise for Africa. ECOWAS and all these regional blocs are going to be very important.
At that same summit, John Kerry, the Secretary of State, did adumbrate that, look, we need better leadership in Africa. If Africa is going to get better, we need to see good leaders. I'll tell you, Africa is dogged by politicians as opposed to leaders.
I think you're a pessimist.
The difference is, no, I'm a realist. You know, when I see what is on ground, that is what I see. I wish things were better, but they are not. You know, we have politicians in Uganda and all over Africa as opposed to leaders. You see, a politician is more concerned about the next election. A good leader is more concerned about the next generation. We have politicians all over Uganda. No.
Let me tell
we
you,
have
Joe,
politicians all over Uganda, and that is why we are running around, pumping money into the next election, as opposed to providing, you know, better health care, better education, to, you know, dealing with the basics that this country needs.
The bigger thing about politics, leadership, and governance is, for me, vision. And if you look at a country like Uganda, where you have Vision 2040.
What's Uganda's vision? You're the presidential assistant. Yes. What is Uganda's vision?
I mean, Uganda's Vision 2040, it's very much cross-cutting. But what I would tell you...
No, something that even the farmer down there can know. In Rwanda, for example...
The problem is that you don't listen. NRM vision gravitates around its ideology, which is anchored on around four things.
There's the NRM vision, that's for you NRM people. What the Ugandan
Pan-Africanism, non-sectarianism. No, because the NRM is driving the Uganda vision.
So what is Uganda's vision then?
It is to progress, is to transform, is to act in a Pan-African family, non-sectarian, together, and prosperity. Security and prosperity for all.
I'll tell you, until we get to a level where we can, because you see, there seems to be a disjoint, and that is why oftentimes people look at the very rich in this country, who much of the time are the leaders, and they see a very clear distinction between the very poor. I'm thinking, what are we doing? Besides running to the West and saying, help us with this, you know, you see, the four biggest devils, you know, in Africa: poverty, disease, conflict, and of course bad leadership, you know. But you know, for these three, poverty, disease, and conflict, always run to the West, you know, help us here and there.
Just a minute.
Just a minute. At the end of the day, one would imagine that what are our leaders doing, for example? We don't seem to see the man down at the grassroots getting value for the tax money, for example.
All what you've said is a conversation that has happened. Poverty, disease, all those things happen everywhere.
But it has not happened. It happens to this day.
No, I'm saying it happens everywhere, but what has been happening in this country is that the indicators towards reducing, you know, that malaise has been on a progress curve. Are we marching forward to, for instance, reduce maternal mortality?
Are we moving at the rate we should be moving?
No one can say that.
You talk about maternal.
What is happening is that there is, you know, a forward trend. But the bigger point you make is about governance of business in Africa, which I think for me is going to be important for the relationship between the United States and Africa in doing business. For instance, if American companies are coming here, can we do legitimate, transparent business based on integrity, where government officials or business power brokers are asking bribes from these companies? Because the way the US companies operate, it becomes a problem, which may not be the same thing with some other companies in other countries. So for me, we must reform internally in terms of how we democratize the way we do our business, how we deepen transparency into how we do our business and notch those deals. Otherwise, it is still going to be a problem if people still want to ply off from the investors who are bringing resources here.
You talk about plying off from the investors. I think our leaders have been a very big letdown. Look, there have been court cases where, for example, URA says, this investor, you've got to pay, you know, these amounts, etc., and for them they say, look, that is not the case. Why? Because there are surreptitious, underhand deals with politicians. They'll call these fellows and say, come to this country, and then, let me build the point, you know. There will be this wave of these taxes, etc., backdoor things. Chinook is having issues, and all these other oil companies, and you're thinking, so what happens at the end of the day? We are hoping that our leaders are supposed to be the kind of leaders we expect we elected them to be. You know,
No,
but
no,
at the end
Joe,
of the day, who does suffer?
Joe,
It is the Ugandans.
that's a very interesting point. But you see, if you look at Uganda, is that we started with this street criminality, street impunity, you know, extrajudicial killings, fighting each other in a bar. But we had not really gotten acclimatized to white collar crime.
And that's my biggest issue.
No,
If we have been able to deal with those
I
very
allowed you build the point, so allow me build the point.
Go for it.
So what I'm telling you is that that's the kind of criminality that we started dealing with and that we are grappling with and that we have managed to handle to a higher level. But now, when the economy expands, when the economy shifts into services, then you have what you call white collar crime, where people use a pen, where people use the internet, where people are using these hardcore
iPads, gadgets.
These gadgets. So we are building capabilities as a country to make sure that now we begin to effectively deal with white collar crime.
Are we building capabilities,
Yes,
Maurice?
absolutely.
I don't think we are.
No. We are building institutions, not just having a cartel or a rosary of institutions, but we're having institutions that are now building capability.
For
Step
example?
up. I mean, if you look at the Auditor General's office,
The one that was being queried 2 days ago.
If you look at the office of, they have challenges that I can tell you very much. They still have challenges. We are still on trajectory of building those institutions to make sure that they can handle the new age kind of crime, the new age impunity, to make sure that we build a democratic business environment where the United States, where China, where the European Union can be able to leverage and invest in Africa.
Finally, Maurice, look, one of the other big problems that Africa does face is leaders who are geared towards self-aggrandizement, leaders who think they're the only ones that have vision. You talked about that. And for that matter, they'll keep doing everything they can to keep in power. And as they do that, resources go down the drain. As they do that, conflicts do arise. When are we ever going to grow away from this? We've not had, for example, you know, a proper good shift of power in this country, for example. Each time there's a power shift, you know, the country plunges, the country plummets, and that goes for the rest of Africa. And we keep thinking we are going to develop.
Let me make this point. I think we had a situation in Africa where, I mean in Uganda, where we would change leaders, you know, like dresses, you see? I think that was, you know, in a space of 5 years, I think we had almost, was it 6 presidents? But when you look at that period, transformation never happened. So it's definitely, absolutely not about longevity of leaders, but it's about the vision of leaders and whether those leaders are in power legally and legitimately being elected by the people. For me, that's a conversation. And those who are tangential to that point of view, they should market their views, market their ideas, have a superior ideology, and convince the people of Uganda to legitimately believe in them. But to win, engage in recriminations and complaints is not going to help this country. But engage in more superior ideas, market those ideas, and convince the people of Uganda that the vision that we have is what we need.
Maurice Rwakakamba, Special Presidential Assistant, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much.
My opinion is coming up shortly.
Thank you.
It's like music to many of our ears that the US is beginning to realize that Africa is a force to reckon with. However, my challenge would be, is Africa actually realizing that we are a force to reckon with? Do we actually realize our potentials? Do we realize that it's possible for Africa to get out of the doldrums and become a superpower, for that matter? How is that going to happen when there are schisms all over the place, when we are disunited, when poverty is eating us up, disease, conflict, when we, you know, concentrate a lot more on retaining power as opposed to delivering services for the people in this country and Africa at large? I think we need to get to a point where we can have politicians as opposed to leaders. I did clearly adumbrate the difference. Politicians are more concerned about the next election, and whatever they do within their stay in power is to keep holding on to the power. Leaders are more concerned about the next generation. They'll have in place policies, they'll deliver services that are going to see their countries, and for that matter, Africa getting better. Can we have more leaders in this our country and in this continent, for that matter? Something that is possible, something we need to look forward to, something we need to work hard to ensure we attain. And you and I are supposed to make that happen. That's a big story for this morning. Morning at NTV continues shortly. Do stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
I'm going to blow your mind and I'm going to twist your taste buds. The flavors are already coming together. I can feel them. Very lovely, very appetizing, very healthy.
Remember, the way you see it, the way you like it, is the way you get it from my kitchen to your kitchen.
This is the story of a forbidden love and a curse. Raised away from the curse, Solano Rangel returns to uncover his roots.
Solano! Those lands are mine. They're mine. I want those papers here. Look, in my hand. I hope he goes from the hospital to his grave. The big ones.
I'm right here. Come on.
What?
Dad, please stop it. Solano!
He is a brave and strong man, but he couldn't resist Estella's charms. A beautiful, mysterious woman who fights over Solano's love with Manuela, daughter of powerful Max Martinez.
No hard feelings, but Solano and I will get married. Congrats.
But she keeps a secret in the past.
I don't want to be present. I don't want to be here when it takes place. Solano!
The curse will be fulfilled. Her real name is Estrella Caru. And her destiny is to fulfill the curse. Destiny River.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right. For better communities, count for what counts. Census is here from 28th August to 6th September. When you take part in the census, the information you provide is used to make better policies and plans to improve service delivery in your community. Get ready to be counted. Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
Hey there, Mr. Krabs! Are you ready to party?
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it, move it.
Wow! Hello, fellow motor enthusiasts.
Oh, Mr. Krabs! Isn't there any way for us to return all of them back to normal? Hey! How'd he do that?
The Red Ranger's a bigger problem than I thought.
It's time to finish this thing up.
What can I do to make them love me again?
What are you drawing, Kitty?
Mega Rangers? Yeah. That's a mega win! Hello? King Julian, you are truly inspiring.
Ow! SpongeBob! Fantastic!
Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus came to set you free and to be free indeed.
In life, you don't wait. There are certain times where you wait for certain decisions, but when it comes to taking action and choices, you have to move.
Jesus Christ found me, and he actually asked me a question, whether I wanted to live or to die.
Every day of my life was struggling. It's just that God has given me this kind of hope.
GXP every Sunday only on NTV, your official inspiration station.
Obonyumirwa ebyemizannyo jangu nkulage.
Does! And Adam Johnson, the boyhood Newcastle United man, Derek, flying in the face of all football logic. A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie. Ferdinand! Everton lead at Old Trafford. Walcott, Giroud. Suarez. Super Suarez. Gonna backs it up. And cracks it in. Checo finds the net. It's
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
On the next episode, brought to you by
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
La Patrona.
You wouldn't dare to kill me. I'm your grandson.
Don't come closer.
She's capable of killing you. She's
Shut
capable.
up, I said.
She's going to kill him, Alejandro.
Come on, Gabriela. Calm down.
Oh my God, help me.
It's okay. Calm down. Gabriela, Gabriela.
That's everybody. Get ready to die, everybody.
I'm going to shoot your son.
Antonio, don't do it.
La Patrona.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Cassiati, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Welcome back from the break. Onto our Facebook page. If you have never visited our Facebook page, I do not know what you're waiting for. Over 2,300 likes, almost 2,400 likes. Please go to our page, like our page, do post whatever you feel like posting on how we can improve the show. If you'd want to be a part of the show, what you'd like us to discuss, and any other issue of concern to you, we'll be glad to read it out. Now, on to some of your messages regarding the big story where Joel hosted Maurice Rakakamba. We have Moses saying there is nothing much to expect from US and EU, for they have been in Africa long before anyone, and China, which just came up, has traded over $200 billion. How many times in the past did US invite Africa for trade negotiations like they just did? We also have another comment here coming in from, let me see if I can find that comment. We have Masiko saying, let them invest in Africa because we are poor due to our corrupt leaders. And those are his thoughts there. We had Morris saying US companies and other African companies started slowing down because of uncertainty regarding AGOA, African Growth Opportunity Act. We shall now cross over to Brian. Good morning, Brian.
Well, good morning, Mabel. Now, this morning, probably KCCA's Jennifer Musisi should be here because we are redefining rubbish as it is known. Now, instead of throwing away that polythene bag or plastic bottle or old newspapers, do you know that it could be used to create something beautiful to enhance art or entertainment or even decor in your home? Well, this morning we have guests from Africa Arts Collective, and they're going to show us how to do it. Coming up on Everyday Life. Sando Nachito Suve, good morning.
Good morning.
And Gisa Brian. Good morning. Lots of Brians on this set this morning. Morning, guys.
Morning.
This should be a very early morning for you.
Yeah, very early.
Like,
It's fine.
I can see your eyes. You can tell a person who usually wakes up at 10.
Ah, well, you might be, don't be deceived.
Or maybe you sleep late. That could also be.
It depends on what I have to do.
Africa Arts Collective. What's that about? First tell us about that.
Africa Arts Collective. First, may introduce myself as Gisa Brian, the Creative Director,
right.
Africa Arts Collective. We're a multidisciplinary arts organization with a goal of social influence through arts. So we do engage the community with the arts and for a positive reason. Yeah.
This, it's fascinating. I saw some of your work and it's mind-blowing.
Thank you, thank you.
Where did you get the idea of, turning rubbish into something that is beautiful?
It was my last year in university. We had to come up with a final project. And so many times when you're in art school, you want to do something unique and interesting and something that fulfills your passion and what it is you want to communicate or runs along with your vision. And I remember praying a lot and telling God, God, I really need something that I will love, that will push me on after school, and something that I will enjoy. And something that I can use to communicate positivity and empower people. And this amazing idea came. Because there are so many plastic bottles on campus.
Yeah.
So many. Yeah. I used to stay in CCE, and so many of my friends used to make fun. Sandra, I remember when we left campus, Sandra, the campus is now dirty, you know? There are so many plastic bottles.
That?
Yeah, because in the bins, people take a lot of sodas, people take a lot of water.
Yeah.
Everything is plastic,
and
literally.
It's quite trendy
and I have
to
a
drink
statement.
mineral water at
yeah,
campus.
I consistently kept on learning that if something has to stay with you, it must work for you.
Yeah.
Because plastic literally takes over 2,000 years to decompose. So that means from the time when Jesus was here up to now, if the plastic was not burnt or well,
because the bottle in Jesus' time is still there in Jerusalem. My God.
Well, anyway, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So the whole element was that. And then when I started working with them, I discovered the power of possibility. There were so many things that you could make, so many things that you could keep on producing. It was amazing. And it was like an ongoing thing. It just kept on. It's like when you start, and that's something else that I've been learning, that when you start, it just keeps on multiplying and growing. And at the end, I would come to class and there would be so many things I'm presenting, and some you don't even have names for. Yeah. But it was just amazing. It was consistent.
Yeah, just this is the Sandra create something.
Yeah.
Well, Brian.
Yes.
This whole concept is quite, you know, I've seen some of the stuff where you've done stages, where you've done, you know, entrances, and it's beautiful work, the red thing. Where
the orange thing?
Yeah, where you were at the National Theatre, and it was quite awesome.
Thank you.
How many people are working with you now who are doing this kind of work?
We work with various visual artists, and we work as a team of 5, but when we go out to the field, we do engage volunteers into our activities, also students and people who are willing to change the society. So we work with basically the whole community, but if you're really willing to have change in society, then you would definitely work with Africa Arts Collective.
Let's get down to the business.
Yeah, down.
I see this.
Of fun stuff.
Tell us some of the things that you do. Yeah.
I have been working on different things. I usually just love to create. Most of them have been very conceptual. I love music because I'm a musician.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you know what? When I met you, I didn't think you were, for lack of a better, a trash girl.
Trash girl. Trash girl. Well, that's not bad because I've been called a garbage collector. I've been called, it's all cool. It's all cool. As long as it promotes change and
So how do you even create this? I see lots of...
It's simply done. One of the things I love about my work is that it's very simple. So then the whole element of, let me say, you as a person being able to create it, either in your home or to be encouraged to do something. Because sometimes people look at artists' artwork and they say, oh my gosh, it's so complicated.
Yeah.
How are we going to try? So it's continuous. I try to be simple when I can. So these are some of my really simple ones. Right. So this is, well, you know, in every office, we all go to the toilet. So these are the inside parts that we throw out.
Of the tissue.
Yeah. And recently, maybe I could just do a small introduction. I'm doing a project called Ebiroto, a campaign that I'm working on. And it's all about, you know, Ebiroto means dreams. Encouraging dreams and encouraging people to dream and to believe that anything you can imagine can become possible if you put your mind to it and chase after it. So, because usually when you have a vision, so many other people with that vision come running to you. So that also explains the whole relationship between me and Africa Arts Collective.
Awesome.
Yeah, because when you share something, then you relate. So this is one of them. These are simple, these are plastic. We're trying to make recycled music instruments. Yeah, for the fun and also to help us as musicians further what can I call it, further appreciate the musical instruments that we use. Because let me say I'm a vocalist, so then I have my voice, so then I know that you need to tune it and you need to work with it, and then this helps you think and know that there are things that relate to sound, there are things that you have to go on to do sound, but also it makes you feel like I can bring sound into my everyday environment. That emphasizes the power of community, and that we shouldn't give excuses for not doing things, because it's possible.
Try and create them.
Yes.
All right. So
these
what's this?
We were trying to make shakers with small things that we call bulanga. Eh?
Bulanga.
Bulanga.
In Uganda, it's called bulanga.
They put them inside shakers because they don't break. I've been learning so much. It's amazing. Our culture is amazing.
So if you're playing a beat, you can just
so we have
buying
that
the
one.
shakers that
Buying the
are
shakers, or if your kids want something to shake at home, you can easily make something like this for them.
And they are connected to this. This is for tissue, you know, tissue paper, the longer one. And this is black sellotape. And this is the bottle. And they are inside. And anyway. So any way that you want, you can even play with it. And
you know, you use this bulanga and rice.
Yeah, and rice when there was extra too. And then in here are plastic plates with the plastic bottle caps on top. So
I see you wearing this.
Oh well.
Is this a necklace?
Yes, it's my necklace from plastic bottles. What can I? The inner parts on the plastic bottle cap. Yeah, put together.
What kind of stuff do you make? You know, this is really.
Man, I make a lot of stuff.
Can I have this?
Can you have this? I don't know. If
Just for the show, okay? For now, for
but
now.
we can make a version for you.
A male thing.
Yeah, a male.
Like a.
Yeah, man. You know, power of possibility. But the trick is, look and think. You could try it.
So these are how many bottles? 1, 2, about 5 bottles.
No,
or you?
More than 5 bottles.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
19 people drinking minimum.
And you have a cool necklace.
Yeah, so from MTV here right now, can't you get 19?
I can.
Yeah.
I can.
You can.
Because we're sure you drink water somehow every minute. By Renzorio or something, or Aquasipi.
So you see what I want you to do now is try and play me a beat using these shakers and I see whether they actually work.
And you see if they actually work.
Yeah.
But the beauty of possibility is that you create the beat, so maybe you try it. And then I play the drum. Because we need to talk about this drum.
It's a hard pepper, but...
It's a hard pepper.
Let's have this one.
All right. What we are having right now, ladies and gentlemen, we have representatives from Africa Arts collectives, and these guys are showing us how you can turn rubbish into something beautiful. They've done amazing pieces of work. Yesterday I posted about 2 pictures on Twitter. We're going to put up those pictures on Facebook, and you can see some of the stuff they've done. Awesome. Baimba Festival, those who are there, you saw some of them. The stages they've done. Do you just do work only in Uganda, or you take this stuff?
We do work not only in Uganda, because the artists have been recognized for the work they do, and we have some of the artists who have gone to the US who are still doing recycling, like Ruganzi Bruno. We have now Kenya Helen, she has gone to Denmark, done some work too. Wow. There's Zenson, who's in the UK. We work with the different artists that keep on being recognized globally for the work they do, because this is a global effect. Like every city has a problem of recycling.
Yes.
So we are looking at taking it continental, but first you try it at home and make it grow at home. So we would like so much to work with the KCCA to bring more functional ideas into the city, and then it can reduce on the quantity of garbage or anything in the city.
I think I'd like to have a chair made out of plastic bottles. So
that's cool.
That would be really cool. You know, I collect all of them. All right.
Yeah.
Take it away, man.
Take it away.
I think let me drum. Because I'm not good at this shaker. So what?
Maybe you try drumming both sides.
So what?
You can try that.
Like,
because there's that.
Oh, it has to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And you could wear it.
Ah man, I can't do that. Okay. So what beat do you want?
Well, Brian, you choose because we're on your show.
Yeah, we're on your show, so you can give
We just want
give
you
the
to
viewers
feel
what
at
you
home.
think they would feel.
Feel your vibe.
Anything.
Okay, maybe let me do what you've been doing.
Okay.
Hey! Jabba Malako business. Well, this morning we are seeing how you can turn the rubbish that you have at home, whether plastic bottles or toilet, you know, toilet paper.
Yep.
Can you imagine this? And you can try and create something beautiful in your home. And of course, Africa Arts Collectors is here trying to help us do that. And what are some of the other things that we've probably been throwing away and we don't know that we can try and use those? And you can even tell us where can people find you so that they instead of giving it to these garbage collectors, can just bring them to you.
But we are the garbage collectors.
Or maybe you guys pick it and you go and use it for something more meaningful instead of taking them, you know, this trash to Chitezi and, you know, it rots there.
Well, we are based in Nadia, that's where our offices are right now on Spine Road. But we do, like if somebody has garbage or anything at home that is piling up that they would like to turn functional, they simply send us a message on our Facebook or Twitter and let us know where they are. And then we'll simply get to where they are and pick it up.
Sometimes as well as I communicate on my Facebook page, which is Sandra Subi, and I ask people if they have anything that can be reused. I mean, anything can be reused. Even when this microphone is done doing its work, it can be reused.
It can be reused. And it's we do turn all kinds of things. If you have textile, we can turn it to functional. If you have scrap metal, we can still turn it to functional. I mean, most people drive cars now I see around Kampala, so you usually throw away the tires when they are done. You can bring them to us. We'll make them functional into so many things. Even organic, like organic manure or organic garbage that they throw, we still have plastic horticulture that we do, whereby we grow in plastics. That is also something that we have built up at the offices. So there's so much that we do from garbage. We just don't simply bring out only plastics, but whatever we can find that we can turn functional.
Right.
Yeah, so.
I have seen the stages that you created. What other things do you create? You know, you've also talked about these and you know, trying to work on local instruments.
Well, as an artist, as Sandra Subi, Sandra Nachito Subi, I consistently want to work with usually what is available. I have worked a lot with plastic bottles. That's the pictures that you've seen for the Baimba logo last year.
Yes.
I made a piece that was headphones, and it was just questioning people, what are you listening to? So when they would walk through, they would keep hearing these messages about your dream.
Thing.
That's the orange thing.
Is it orange or red?
It's orange, but in the pictures it keeps on.
Yeah.
Well, that's the power of possibility. You see red, and then she sees orange.
Yeah.
Then she says, amazing.
But it was at the entrance,
Yeah,
right?
it was at the entrance.
Those were headphones?
Yeah, they were headphones.
Oh my god.
And they had actual speakers in, and they were communicating what's your dream, and it was just a question
so
to
there was
people.
sound coming out.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a thing to ask people, what are you listening to in relation to where you want to go. Wow. So the other piece of work that I did was called The Power of Possibility, and it's right now at the National Theatre.
Is that the black?
Sorry, National Museum.
It's at the National Museum.
They're like birds in a tree, and the beauty was that they were coming from this small egg below the tree, and the whole point was still, where do you want to go? Because from this very tiny thing came these amazing huge birds, and they work with the lighting in the environment. So I think that as an artist, or as people who want to promote this kind of thing, I think that people in our country are doing it. There are lovely people who make these sandals out of tires, and they are functional and they work much longer. In fact, we should all carry some.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Lugavire.
So.
Yeah. So the amazing thing is it's a culture that's there. We just need to encourage it, because we promote the element that if it stays with you, it must work for you.
Right.
And so we need to use the resources in our country.
Because, for example, if you go to the National Theatre, there are dustbins from one of our artists, Icronics. They are multi-purpose. People can sit on them, you can dump in steel plastics, and you see that somebody doesn't mind that he's seated on plastics. So if man can relate with garbage, then there's so much that you can do if you recycle it and then bring it back to them. So I think it's giving out more spaces for these artists to interact with the community on how to engage the community, like on recycling. So we do want so many spaces that we're asking for. If you have a play field that you don't have something you're using it for, if you have at school, you would like to create different things that are functional for kids. Artists have all these minds, because something like this is what kids would play for, rather than spending $5 or something downtown trying to get something that can amuse your kid. But try to learn to do it at home.
Yeah, and let them make it, because then you're unlocking something in their minds, and they're going to start to believe that I can create more. And sometimes it only doesn't work in terms of the art, but it keeps on growing to so many other things in life. And what is it they want to do? They start thinking, okay, if I now know that a shaker is made like this, then what is it I also want to do? And how do we make it? And if I want to excel and become a doctor, as so many young children say, and they have all these amazing dreams, but sometimes we don't want to think about how to get there. So when we get to school, we are grumpy, you know? And yet the element is that once you learn all these things, you start thinking, okay, things work in a certain way. So if I want to go there, I need to take these steps. And these steps are very interesting. And even if I fall, I get up and keep moving. Yeah, because I think we have so many youths in Uganda, untapped resource. It's like there, they are ready to.
We're waiting for, to be hired in offices.
Yeah.
I like what you say.
Yeah.
If it's with you,
if it stays with you,
then it has
must
to
stay
work.
with you.
Yeah.
It must work
for
with
you. So, well, if you have the rubbish waiting for garbage, that company that you paid 25, 35, 50K a month to come and pick, these guys can actually use that garbage and make it. Maybe create something for your own home.
Yes.
And we'll share those contacts on Facebook, of course, and Twitter, and SMS line is 6565. I apologize for those who are on free-to-air channels, are probably not getting us at the moment. Our technical team is working around the corner to make sure that you're back. But if you're on DSTV, GoTV all over Africa and streaming online, thank you so much for being with us. All right, let's just get out of this by. I want to hook you up.
We can also, we have this amazing workshop coming up.
Yes.
Where we're going to make the music instruments at the National Theatre.
On the 29th, it will be from 9 to 1 p.m. in the green room. And I would like people to come and experience these instruments, get to know things that they can do on their own, even when they're at home.
So can we bring our trash?
Please bring
your trash.
Saucepans, old cups, PVC, thread, jerry cans. These are buckets of paint.
This is a bucket completely.
If you have these really huge ones.
Yeah, that's a bucket from...
Man, I thought you had...
No,
this is a drum you made on your own.
Yeah.
That's a bucket.
And the beauty about it was that we were consistently sharing knowledge. So that's the strength.
A bucket and a PVC.
Yeah.
This thing costs like 500,000.
But you,
like in the US.
After printing on the PVCs, you leave them on the street. So we come and pick them up and turn them down.
All these things that you put up for billboards.
All right, let me hook you up on this bucket and the PVC.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with sport. Of course, Brian joining us and Mabel. Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Gentlemen, Jesus came to set you free and to be free indeed.
In life, you don't wait. There are certain times where you wait for certain decisions, but when it comes to taking action and choices, you have to move.
Jesus Christ found me, and he actually asked me a question, whether I wanted to live or to die.
Every day of my life was struggling. It's just that God has given me this kind of hope.
GXP every Sunday only on NTV, your official inspiration station.
This is the story of a forbidden love and a curse. Raised away from the curse, Solano Rangel returns to uncover his roots.
Solano! Those lands are mine. They're mine. I want those papers here. Look, in my hand. I hope he goes from the hospital to his grave. The big ones.
I'm right here. Come on.
What?
Dad, please stop it. Solano!
He is a brave and strong man, but he couldn't resist Estella's charms. A beautiful, mysterious woman who fights over Solano's love with Manuela, daughter of powerful Max Martinez.
No hard feelings, but Solano and I will get married. Congrats.
But she keeps a secret in the past.
I don't want to be present. I don't want to be here when it takes place. Solano!
The curse will be fulfilled.
Her real name is Estrella Caru. And her destiny is to fulfill the curse. Destiny written.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right. For better communities, count for what counts. Census is here from 28th August to 6th September. When you take part in the census, the information you provide is used to make better policies and plans to improve service delivery in your community. Get ready to be counted. Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
Okay, kona ne NTV olwokutaano luno bingi bye tulina sawa nnya n'ekitundu basebo ne banya tusinze wano ekafu tulina abasajja nga bolengera ati ne tuberese twegatteko neberereno munakuyange omutima gwaguba nsazeewo kati kaneddigidire NTV kona sawa nnya n'ekitundu.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
So watching Morning at NTV, a reminder that District Edition is in Kabale.
Greet the people.
Nembaramusa mwena bakabare murire muta bagenzi banje banyabuzari
You're very calm. You do it the proper way.
Waba lukula msomu kasheshe. Inakuwa calm. Mbweni tuishi. On fire NTV. Bona mba muri kureba kaseti. Taza kwatera no bare bono bwa kabari. So
Can't you tell them Morris is there?
Morris Ariyo, Morris Mugish. Mugishani.
Not Mugisha.
Morris Mugish. No,
tell him Ramiti will be there live.
Ramiti nawe aza kubatera obubare bono bwakabare mbweni bwakigezi zaha zabona mboni baza kubabona.
And also tell them the town hall debate is there on Sunday.
Ariyo na za debate. Ariyo za debate. Za debate zimuzikira ziriya. Ezo zona ziri. Mbweni twena nani ninyi? Nini ninyi? Tuka. One time. Let me tell you a story. One time was at, I work with Capital Radio. So one time I'm working and I get a phone call from the reception. Say someone is here to see you. So I go down. Guess what? Of course the guy didn't have a good story, but the guy was from Kabale. I asked him, so how do you know me? He says, we listened to you in Kabale, but he had a couple of issues, so he wanted somebody. But I was in shock that somebody came from, he was struggled around Kampala because he's from Kabale and said, we hear you, we know you're in Chiga, so I decided to come here for help.
When I was no governor of Bank of Uganda. All right. This morning, talking sport, Brian, thank you so much for joining us. And it's Uganda Cup semi-final this weekend. Twin Cobs and Heathens. Who is likely to take this?
First of all, probably you could ask the question the other way around, who is going to be tested more? I think in this case it should be Heathens, because Heathens is playing Buffaloes, and that's a Chadondo derby. Both of them come from Chadondo. It's totally changed the last 2 years because Buffaloes actually used to be a feeder club to Heathens, the younger side, where they will groom a couple of young kids and then go to Heathens. One of those, of course, is Okello Ala, and then the most promising, one of the best youngsters we have in rugby, Philip Okorach. It's gone. They don't even want to hear the word feeder again. They want to be men of their own. And
they are graduating.
Absolutely. And they've showed that in the last 2 seasons, much improvement in terms of their performances. So it's going to be tough again for Heathens than what the Cobs have to face in Izimani Rhinos. So I think Heathens are going to start favorites. There's no doubt about it, but they will have to fight a little harder to overcome the Buffalo.
You call them Izimani Rhinos?
Yeah, they know the Rhinos, Izimani Rhinos. I think they're sponsored by Izimani probably.
Oh, okay.
But it's Izimani Rhinos playing against Cobs. There's no doubt. This one, Cobs start as firm favorites. They'll be a little tested by Rhinos, but Cobs should come out on I think on top, much easier than the Heathens are going to. The Buffaloes are going to be a tough team to beat up on, with the guidance, of course, former Heathens great, and of course Heathens great, if you can call him so, Robert Seguya. So it should be an interesting game. Chadon will be buzzing, there's no doubt about that.
Right.
Okay, taking on from your cue, who will be tested more, Power or Falcons, as they try to catch up with the City Oilers as the second round of the Basketball League begins today?
Unfortunately, the league was meant to start today, the second round of basketball, but it was pushed because basketball has been played at the YMCA because Lugogo has become a tough venue for basketball. Airtel sponsors the league. There's a lot of MTN covered at Lugogo. Airtel don't find any sense in sponsoring a league when they can't get mileage. All the TV cameras, if NTV is there, what you're going to see is MTN.
And they can't cover
Airtel,
it up.
Exactly, and you can't, according to what they say. But I'm not going to blame so much MTN in this, because there's a sports institution that should protect a sports facility for sport to prevail, which has not happened. Aliga West and his group have intentionally killed sport in this country, and that's why basketball can't be played indoors. If it trains, for example, we can't have basketball at the YMCA. And today YMCA are breaking off, I think, I don't know, second term or first term, and they're going to have a couple, I think, of parties or something, so basketball can be played today.
They are graduation things.
Something like
that. Always have those parties, right?
No, Makere is tough because the lighting is not that good on a Friday. So what they usually do...
The pool court.
The pool court, but it's not the best of courts that you want to play, a national basketball league. What happens is, they usually use the Makere pitch this side of Lumumba.
Yes.
During day. Division 1 and D-League, I think. They go down there and play from there, but it's during the day. But the big games, usually, it's the YMCA. Because to start with also, poolside, okay, might be okay playing there, but you're not going to get any revenues. How are you going to charge people from there? You can't. Down that side of Makere, you can't. So the National Basketball League, a game that would attract a crowd, is played at the YMCA so that basketball can get some money, so that's a tricky part. But then the start has
And the
been
suitable arena is really at Lugogo.
I'm telling you, Arigaosa would prefer wedding at Lugogo than a basketball game. Yet that facility was meant for sport, which is quite ashaming. But anyways, the start has been pushed to Sunday. So Falcons, who are supposed to face Power, will be rescheduled some other day. But Sunday there's KIU City Hall, very good game. City Hall last season actually KIU beat up on City Hall last season, much as of course City Hall ended up defending champions. But they beat them up twice actually in the league during the regular season. So it should be an interesting game. But of course even the other big game should be the ladies' game. The two best female teams in the league, KCCA Leopards facing UCU Lady Cannons. 3:30 for the ladies, and then 7:30 KIU Rangers up against City Hall. But in between there, 5:30, there will be a game, Charging Rhinos up against Sharing Youth. Quite a fascinating one, because a battle for teams that are trying to be in the top 8 when the playoffs come, and also fighting relegation.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this weekend also the NSSF KVC
quite
International
a tongue
Easter.
twister.
Yeah. Is starting this weekend. Set the scene for us.
First of all, this is an international tournament, like they call it. It might not be that international, but it's teams from across the East African region, and our blood
should be regional.
Yeah, regional maybe, if you want to call it so. I know sometimes international is really misused, you know. But it's regional, but it's international. Let's take it international. And of course, like we talked earlier, that NSSF has sunk in 50 million shillings to cater for most of the facilitation. Games will be played in Mubs, Nambole, and also Lugogo. But Sunday, the final day, is when the action will be in Nambole. But defending champions, Inatek from Rwanda for the men, and then for the women, it's Nkumba. University were the defending women's champions. So it's going to be tricky because the rules actually change. What used to happen is teams will be allowed to use any players because they register players in the league. So what would happen is, because there's some money to win for NSSF, and there are better teams coming from Kenya, Rwanda, and are very competitive, what Ugandan teams would do, they would get a couple of mercenaries from Rwanda and Kenya and play only that tournament 2 days, and then they go back and probably they win sometimes. But that has changed. The federation said you use the same players who registered for the league. If you're a local team, you face the other guys, and which is the best thing to go, I think. Try to measure up yourself with the best teams from Kenya and Rwanda, because they're a little ahead of us in terms of volleyball. So it's a good thing. I think the only sad thing is that we might not see again Nemo Stars, because they have still refused to take part in this tournament, just like I gave you reasons last time.
Well, I actually got a tweet from Nemo Stars.
What did they say?
The other day, and said, it's a tournament that we have never thought is important to participate in. But we shall when the time is right.
I know, and since they're the best team, they can decide to do whatever they want. But I think they should, because if there are teams coming from Rwanda and Kenya, it's good competition. It's weighing you up.
Yeah.
It's good for Nemo Stars, because they're a team that you have to give a lot of respect for. They've sacrificed a lot to go to Tunisia, much as they haven't done well. But the exposure and experience you get out of there, playing with very good teams, is very important. And I think Nemo Stars have done that a lot. They've traveled around Africa a little this year. And of course, also in Rwanda for the Genocide Memorial.
Yeah.
Much as they didn't do well, but I think it's a learning process. Volleyball is not that old in this country.
They're obviously far better than many clubs.
Absolutely. And I think this also would help them in terms of competition. But certain things can't change, so you never know what happens. Sport always has those differences. We'll go with it.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned Rwanda, and it's interesting because we are going to talk about a match in Kigali. Have you guys seen the buzz about Kagame's daughter?
Oh my God.
If you had 30 seconds to talk to Kagame's daughter, what would you say?
You're beautiful.
That's it?
Will I marry you?
That's it?
What else do you want?
What would you say, Brian?
Give her your number.
No, I don't need to.
+256.
Listen, what something? Imagine you said, will I marry you? Will you marry me? And she's like,
she says, no,
you're
so
too
good.
short. No, it says she's so good. No, it's so good. I want to be amongst the short ones at least. I'll tell you something, Brian. There are not so many, beyond Rwanda, there are not so many tall guys who are going to match her height. There are not so many beyond Rwanda in Africa.
So she'll have to go to Sudan.
Maybe, yeah. And I don't think, not a chance can Kagame give a South Sudanese.
Well, my brother-in-law yesterday just said, 30 seconds, +256. And said, that's the thing.
No, I don't.
And I thought it was quite,
No, but you see, the number will be tricky. Because it's tough just calling Kagame's daughter.
Let's talk about.
But anyways, let's talk about.
That's
see how you've misled us?
No, You mentioned.
I don't want to admire things that are far away from me. I'm looking at you. You're looking beautiful and stunning. What do you want me to look at Kagame's daughter? I'm enjoying you, man.
Even in Washington, not in
No, exactly.
Okay, tell us about Sekafa.
Sekafa starts today. KCCA in action against Gor Mahia. Bobby Williamson's team, who is now national team coach for Kenya, by the way, was appointed. But he's still he's still Gor Mahia coach. Shockingly, yesterday I was dropping off someone at the airport, and actually they were late for the Rwanda Air flight.
Yeah.
And she was only served by KCC being late because the flight couldn't take off
without that number
without
of
the team.
people. Yeah.
And I told her, prayer. Actually, when I was saying, but it's Aisha, the one who worked with the sports bus, she left for Kigali because of jam in town. It was about, I think they told me the check-in closed 1 hour to the flight, and they are very strict. And we were at around, immediately after Namasuba, and it was about 10 minutes to 8 o'clock. I told her jump on the border. She jumped on the border. I said, I pray that flight is delayed. And in case, and when I was calling, guys told me case is not yet here, so they've got to wait for them. And thank God they did. So Aisha is in Rwanda as I speak, but cases will be in action. And they've added a couple of players, first of all, from last season, Brian Omon, Noah Kas, and I think a couple of other guys who I can't remember offhand. But Ugandan sides have really struggled. And I think this tells in terms of, because a couple of people have an argument saying, you say that the Kenyan league is better than us, and maybe the other leagues in Tanzania and stuff like that. How come the national team, Uganda, performs slightly better than them? But look at this. This is when the test comes. KCC plays against very, I think, small opposition. The resistance is not that big. Once they go up against very motivated teams, like Gor Mahia, a couple of teams, APR from Rwanda, and those from Tanzania, Azam that replaced actually Yanga, because Yanga was thrown out of the tournament because they wanted to take a second string side. And they tell them, we need a strong side because it's a very competitive game. Someone is offering about $50,000. Kagame offers $50,000 for the tournament. So you've got to bring a competitive team, give the tournament its worth. And this is when the test comes. This is when we start thinking of building a very strong league.
Yeah.
Because once we go up there is when we're going to be tested. Now, George Besson Simbe has always won things. He's not the best of managers. I have my own reservations about him, but he always disproves us.
Yeah.
He comes, he wins trophies. What more do you want? A manager is as good as his last result.
That's
period.
it.
Once he wins, it's good to go. But I think it's going to be tested in this one. A couple of guys who haven't been part of the team. Brian Omoni came in, he was with the national team. He didn't even have time to play together. But he's been part of KCC, so there's not going to be so much that he needs to gel. But it's going to be a big test. Gor Mahia have better organized, better facilitated, because the Kenyan league has got more money than here and stuff like that. But KCC are the other team that has been facilitated. If there's any other thing, I'll have to give Jennifer Musisi credit for. They've really pumped some good money in this team.
I see
Gone
their
are the
bus.
days.
See their bus packed up.
Exactly.
Yeah?
And when was the last time you had a Ugandan club going to Rwanda on an aeroplane? It's always
they would
by
take the
road.
bus,
Even
yeah.
the under-17 actually went by road.
yeah.
KCC flew. So that's something you need to give credit to.
This morning I want to appreciate actually, and let me also take off some time, because I've done this the whole morning, and thank Jennifer. I see the vision, you know, and yes, some of her methods are highly questionable, but yesterday I was going back home and I see these guys cutting down those huge billboards, you know, because she wants a city that is clear. And I'm seeing where we are going.
And you know what?
And it's quite...
Izubrand, you can say that the methods are questionable and stuff like that. I think anywhere in the world, if development is going to come, the methods will be questionable. There is no doubt about it. But I think for some of these institutions or maybe corporate companies that give it to sport and also give back to society, they've got to be commended for what they do and given credit.
Yes.
Because after all, they do some of these things to be mentioned and get mileage. Like, I was quite impressed. Yesterday, I was attending a press conference for the Sadio Nito Memorial Tournament. It's a golf tournament. Sadio Nito is the most successful amateur golfer in Uganda. He won 12 Uganda Opens.
Wow.
He died in 2005. He was working with Nile Breweries. What Nile Breweries did, they've maintained his legacy by organizing a tournament. And every time there's a tournament, there's money fundraised for the family.
Wow.
Nile Breweries went ahead to renovate his house.
Awesome.
That's one. Two, three, they also have gotten employment for one of his sons. He's working with Nile Breweries in the human resource, department. And they could have actually probably helped one or two, but some of them cannot be in position to be helped because of where they are now. But I think it's something that's got to be commended. While we ask for corporate companies to come and sponsor, we need to give them back in terms of probably appreciating what they've done.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Quickly, and under 30 seconds. We are up against Man City tomorrow.
Ooh la
Is
la.
it tomorrow?
Uganda
Sunday?
play Man City.
Arsenal.
How important is the Community Shield?
First of all, it's a curtain raiser to the Premier League. It gets you in the mood. You know that, okay, if Sunday is a Community Shield, then next weekend, up in action. The Premier League starts. 2, it gives probably a clear picture of how the teams are well placed and prepared for the start of the season. Arsenal have been playing a couple of pre-season games. They didn't win the Emirates Cup. Man City have been involved. They haven't been that impressive. So this game brings us and gives us the clear picture of what exactly it's going to be like. It's a normal or friendly. Just because there's a trophy in terms of the shield, and maybe it sets the stage, the stage for the Premier League. But I think it gives a clear picture and gives the fans